What's up guys, it's Starguard here with another mock review, this time on Rocka. Now, this is going to be the first, well actually not my first Hero Factory revamp. I've done Core Hunter in the past, but this is the first Hero Factory hero that I've made. And so I wanted to kind of like introduce Rocka as the first one. I don't really know why. I think I just kind of like, it kind of just came together because I've had ideas on revamping all the Hero Factory heroes and villains. And so, you know, I'm going to kind of go into that, what my process is on making these heroes, but also just kind of look at this mock because I knew I wanted to essentially take the Hero Factory heroes but make more posable action figures of them that to me would be the definitive versions for my shelf, and you know, whether that be through adding weathering or more articulation and stuff like that. So it's just a lot of that I kind of want to talk about. Well, not a lot, but the process and what kind of went into it, because also I knew I wanted to keep these things simple. And so while a lot of my other mocks, again, they aren't revamps or any strict guidelines I have to set, this mock I think I gave myself a lot more like limits on, and I'll talk about that. So starting off with the feet, and this is a perfect time for me to kind of explain what I talked about with limits. So I knew that with Hero Factory characters, especially with the ones that I'm making, I'm going to be using simple CCBS armor and CCBS bones. And I still kind of I try to cover it up with this back piece right here. You know, I try to make it look good, make it kind of look complete. If this part fell off, this is just a pin connection. It's a pin connection in there. You do that and boom, it's connected. But this is kind of what I'm talking about. Like, this is, I knew that to continue the Hero Factory aesthetic, I didn't want to like create super, like, to me Hero Factory, a huge part of it is how clean and like that just CCBS will look. But I didn't want that to make it just like, I didn't want to just make CCBS revamps, you know. I wanted to make these look like the original characters, have that clean aesthetic, but also kind of improve them in ways. And so you know, I did that with kind of like the weathering here with the silver dry brushing, and also on the feet more aggressively brown dry brushing. And the way I did that is because I realized black washing it would not look as good, because that's what I normally do for my figures. But the gold needed a brown because I didn't want it to be like super like dark. Like it was gold, it's a very bright color, so having essentially a darker shade of it worked a lot better to kind of like enhance it. And also what I did is, and you could see that more on the thighs, I really went into crevices and added more brown, so it kind of pops a lot more. Because while again these CCBS bones and shells and Hero Factory characters are very like clean and simple, there's still, you know, there's still tiny little details that if I add that, it kind of makes it pop. And even stuff like here, which is, I want to keep us like a smooth kind of like thing for his thighs, I had these gold system parts. Adding that extra little brown around here kind of like gives it a little more wear and tear, while not making it look super kind of like weird, you know what I'm saying? Like some of my previous mocks, it looks like they've like walked through like ash and whatnot, and that's not something I want to replicate here. However, back, it's pretty empty. I mean, probably I'll go back, and once I find a good gold piece, I'll add that there, in all honesty. But yeah. And then the crotch. Here we're getting into the custom torso. So this custom torso is hopefully going to be the base for all my hero figures. Just depending on their height, I may adjust it, like make them slightly taller, slightly shorter, or whatnot. But this is a Hero Factory 2.0 piece. I had a lot of debate on whether or not, kind of how I would layer the colors, because for me, I originally thought of making this gold, but I realized it would make it too much gold. I think it's good to kind of break it up. And to me, gold and dark gray was always Rocka's color. And that's another thing. I not only wanted this version to be a breakout version, which was, you know, kind of how a lot of his accessories are from the breakout version, and a lot of the revamps will be kind of based on the breakout versions, because to me, those were the definitive versions of those characters. I think a lot of people agree with that. But also, I really want to bring in other versions of them. Like, I brought in almost like Brain Attack and, what am I talking about? Brain Attack and Invasion from Below. The torso is very inspired from Invasion from Below, because I really like that aesthetic for the heroes, even though they were like the, sorry, not the minifigure versions, the actual design from the show. I love those looks for the characters. They look very like, almost like military look for the heroes. I kind of like very like same and, what am I talking about? Same and kind of uniform. Like, it gave them almost a uniform, which I really liked. And so this torso is kind of built around that. And I mean, down here it's a CCBS, what's it called, torso part, but cut. And then I put a tire on top of it, so I could put the Hero Factory crotch on top of it. But from that, we're getting to what I'm talking about, the torso. This very inspired by the Invasion from Below look. And so it's a 2.0 Hero Factory part. This part is cut, but it's glued on top to kind of keep that shaping, which that shaping really was inspired by the Invasion from Below. And then down there, in there, is a dark gray second part of this, the Hero Factory torso. And then this part is kind of glued off to the side. And that's a design I've done in previous MOCs, but not to the actual like custom torso, which allows him to kind of get that bend in there, because there's a ball joint in there. You can kind of see the inner workings, but it's a simple frame. And then there's G2 Bionicle things to kind of make the shoulders fill out that gap. And I'm honestly really proud of this, because on its own it kind of all lines up, but then it allows for articulation because it's a separate part. So like, you're kind of like breaking, quote unquote, the sculpt. It's not actually sculpt, but you know what I mean, like, to use action figure terms, you're kind of breaking the armor up, but it still allows for articulation. Oh, I hit the entire light box, wow. Anyway, but yeah, this is also what I'm talking about limits. Like, I didn't just want to throw a ton of parts on the torso. I wanted it to look very uniform and kind of like smooth textures, because I know a lot of the times my MOCs, and this is again why every single MOC review, every single MOC I make, like, I try to learn something new, even if it's not the best MOC, even if I'm like, I don't really like this thing, or me going like, oh, I could have done this better. Every little MOC, I try to learn something, try and get better at something. Especially here, I try to get better at sanding my cut parts. But I didn't want to just throw a ton of stuff on the torso, because again, I knew that the limbs would be really simple, because it's a Hero Factory MOC at the end of the day. It needed simple kind of look to it. And so for this, I try using as many big, smooth parts. Again, with that 2.0 torso, I wanted to make it look like it was all one part, rather than several parts kind of glued together. But I'm very happy with this ink, and there's slight bits of silver and gold weathering. And to get to the head, I don't know if I could. Can I zoom in more? I can't zoom in more. I'll bring the camera close to him. You could really see the weathering I did in there, specifically all those cracks and crevices that are on his torso. Okay, I didn't mean to snap his neck, but you know what I mean. But like, all that brown washing, and specifically on the scope, I gave him some silver wash to really kind of give that metallic look, which is something that they do in the show, which I found really interesting, because I was rewatching the Hero Factory show kind of while making this. I was like, oh my gosh, they put so much weathering onto the figures, and obviously I get why they can't do that on the actual sets, but like, yeah, it was just a cool look that I liked. And also, one thing I might change is I want to give him a Glatorian head. I just didn't have many Glatorian heads. A lot of my Glatorian heads, I said that so many times, are broken, and so I used a Brain Attack because the sockets are better. And then back here, I added a 3.0 Rocka mask, but I used that as a backpack, and I glued it on top. And in there is some Brain Attack. It's the knee piece, actually, the same part down here on his knee. I cut and glued on there to kind of fill it out a bit more, so I could glue the rocket piece on top. And I use this part a lot. I used it on another MOC, which I don't know if I'll be showing. I gotta talk to one of my buddies about it, because that character has a whole thing. Not in like a drama way, in a I don't know if we'll be using him or kind of what role we want him, but I used that part a lot on that MOC, and so now I've kind of started using the 3.0 Rocka. Has a lot of big coverage. It's a big V kind of piece that you could use in glue, and has a lot of nice textures. Again, also this little dots and stuff and all the little details were really brought out with the brown wash. And it was so much so that I would go into the brown parts specifically, like the little nooks and crannies and stuff. I would put more on there. And you can kind of see this on here. I didn't put like a ton of brown on here because I was like, there's no point, I'm just gonna wipe it off. But it's almost like panel lining for Gundams, if you're into that. I tried kind of essentially panel lining all these little crevices. Anyway, here is the breakout. No, it's a shoulder pad. Breakout Rocka has that. But I cut it because this part was kind of just a little too big, in all honesty, and it was clipping too much I think I could have cut it better. I might go back in and smooth it out a bit more. But I wanted to give him that asymmetrical look that he did on the breakout version. I'm pretty happy with it. Because it is, I don't know, to me, that was a very distinct look for Rocka. And again, I'm trying to make the definitive versions. And so I want all the Hero Factory heroes to look like they're created by the same people. They have a lot of the same similar techniques, but I do want each of them to look distinct. Like, that's why I've also thought about making Bionicle revamps, about like kind of some of the Toa and whatnot, but I just don't want to make clone sets, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to make the same MOC over and over again, just in different colors, like a lot of these like the Hero Factory 1.0 heroes, the Hero Factory 2.0 heroes to an extent, or the Metro Bionicle figures. Although I love all those sets, all the ones I'm naming, I'm not knocking them. I would like, little Starguard loved those sets, and to this day I appreciate them, but like, I don't want to make the same kind of clone thing over and over. So little details like that I can make each Hero Factory hero, this thing keeps on falling off, Hero Factory hero distinct, I think I'll do for sure, especially because again the breakout versions are very distinct and not clone like, but I still want them to kind of have the same torso like parts. Like, I still want to use the 2.0 torso on all of them and whatnot. And then kind of the hands, these are really simple, and this is the same design I used on Spark's lower arms, just in gold. And same thing with his hands. His hands are, you know, just cut and glued Spark hands, I think, except this one, the system parts on the outside, so you have that gold little system detail, which again, all kind of like dry brushed and whatnot, and his gold fingers. And all of this is a good time to say I did all this and I matte sprayed it, even the parts that aren't really like painted, quote unquote painted, weathered. I still matte sprayed it because it gives this like cool, clear look. And while I do like the shininess of the original Lego parts, I just like the kind of matte look. It gives this cool look to kind of like flatten the figures, which I think looks cool in a way, and it allows for some of these details to kind of pop more. Now, I did that on the Core Hunter revamp, so all my Hero Factory revamps will hopefully have a matte coat. But now onto his accessories, which is kind of a different thing, but the Hero Factory, you know, characters have very distinct accessories, so I figured it would be fine to do so. For these MOCs, a lot of the time, I haven't really mentioned it, but here is his shield. You know, Rocka has his breakout shield. And so this is cut and glued. It's just another one of these parts because, dude, for some reason, I got like so many of these. I had like 6 of these Rocka parts just because I got them from random lots. I want to say I have 2 Rocka breakouts. And then I got them from there, and I got other breakouts. I don't know, man. I just got these. I got this part, so many of it. Yeah, and so I glued it on top because I was like, I want to make it clean. I want to make it look good because without it, there's just a lightsaber rod look sticking out. And while it could have been glued better, I think it looks good. Like, it looks like all one generated kind of green piece. And now, onto his crossbow, which has some cut 2015 protector parts on it to kind of clean up the look. And also the barrel has a lot of silver dry brushing along with the gold. The bottom's pretty basic, but, you know, I want to keep the green because that's how it was originally. On the original set, the crossbow could kind of like pose. That's the one thing on this figure that that has less posability, ironically, than the original set. But it has this part, and I cut these protector parts and I glued on top to kind of keep the look. And so you just take off the hand because it's connected there, and then tie in ball joint, which I may go back in and paint these because it being white or gray or wherever that color is, it's a little distracting. But then you just put this part on, and then boom, he has his crossbow, which you can kind of get his look there. But also, since it's connected through the pin, you could switch it, so you could kind of adjust it to whatever pose would look best for the pose. So I was pretty happy with that. I kind of like giving these figures accessories like they're actual action figures. You know, like a Marvel Legends or a Mafex figure. Not in the sense of like, oh, it's that quality, but in the like, you know, they get extra little things that you could add to them, and I like that. Although I do like most of the time my figures to be able to not have to remove things for it to work, but he's a robot. I thought it kind of worked, you know, he has to remove his hand, you know, like maybe the gun comes out of his hand and, you know, something like that. So maybe one day I'll find a way to make the Hero Factory heroes like have the guns and whatnot, as well as have the original hands, but as of right now, he doesn't. So there's that. And the last thing I wanted to kind of add is the articulation, because I mentioned it a little bit, but he has bent knees, not much, ball joints, foot, ball joint leg, torso articulation, you know, crunch, side to side, all around. I'm not going to do 360, because why would I? No, I'm not into that. And then a ball joint, double ball joint in the neck with a little, forgot to mention it, but he has a little thing right there to fill out his neck. And then shoulder articulation in the ball joint, in the torso, shoulder articulation, and ball joint at the arm and elbow and hand and blah blah blah. And I think the camera's about to die, as well as I try to keep these mock reviews to 10 minutes, and this is currently 16. So this is my Hero Factory Revamp breakout / definitive version of Rocka in my eyes. Again, try taking a lot of inspiration from across Hero Factory, Rocka canon, or whatever you want to call it. So yeah, hope y'all liked it. I'm gonna hopefully have more Hero Factory reviews soon. Any kind of things you want to add or any notes or comments, you know, drop them down below. And yeah, more Hero Factory Bionicle mock review creation things coming soon. Thanks for watching, and hope you enjoyed. Hopefully the next hero will be Furno. If not, I forgot that it was supposed to be Furno. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed, and thanks. Watch more videos, please. Plenty of other creations to view. So yeah, bye.